Welcome back to the 3 Lane Podcast. Back on Thursdays. We're still going to be in the house till next semester, but starting off, and it's been a bit of an eventful week or so. First off, playoff rankings and rivalry week, and Ohio State. We're going to start off with those three because it was an eventful time. I mean, let's be honest here. Fights broke out all over the place, and it was crazy to see. It was crazy. I think there were 7 total fights, right? And starting off, Ohio State gets beat, right? Like they get beat when they should not have been beaten. I mean, they had no business losing. Week 14. Yeah. So they had no business really losing. And they get, I mean, they completely changed the way they played. I'm trying to pull it up the game here. I mean, it was 13-10, but it was in Ohio State. Again, Michigan has no business. They were 6-5 coming in, another 7-5, but like, they throw for 62 yards, 2 picks. They run for only 172. Not that much offensive yards. Only 1 touchdown. Average 4.1 yards per carry, which is about average. Donovan Edwards only got the ball 4 times. He's fallen out of the rotation of running backs. When I do my draft class, I'm going to release my draft rankings and mock drafts, and they're going to start coming out every few weeks. Once next week, pretty much starting the end of next week, I will start Wednesday or Thursday, because I'm off then, and I will work through the day and get my rankings set and everything, as well as playing video games as well. But I'm going to try to get all those done by that weekend, next weekend, and have that out. And I had him up there. He's not even in the top 5. Khalil Mullins looks great. He's a thumper, and he's gotten used late in his career. So I'll kind of explain the rankings, but late in his career, the mileage isn't on his body as some running backs. Like Ashton Jeanty, the concern for me is, will he make it past his first contract? I'm not sure because he's been used a lot. And the running back, like it said, shelf life. The only 2 guys who have kind of made it through are Saquon Barkley and Derrick Henry. And both of those guys are physical specimens. I don't know if Ashton Jeanty is just like a physical specimen like those 2. Heck of a talent. But I don't know. There's like where he is in my eyes, and then there's like Saquon Barkley and Derrick Henry, just a level above them, who can keep their bodies running for so long. But I digress. The Michigan game, I mean, the top corner in the country, Will Johnston, one of the better tight ends in the country, Colston Loveland. All right, so you're down your top 2 guys. You know, they don't really. Mason Graham wrecked the game, but didn't really have any sacks. And so Ohio State, I mean, Will Howard threw for 2 picks, and you look at what Kyle McCord did against Miami. Kyle McCord looked better than Will Howard. Will Howard does not look like as great of a passer. And looking back on his stats, it's kind of like I'm mesmerized because I was high on Will Howard. I was high on him. He was so big coming out of Kansas State. He didn't put up great numbers. So for them to switch from Kyle McCord to Will Howard, who Kyle McCord led the country in passing yards, is huge. I like Kyle McCord. I think he'll be like a 4th-round quarterback who good backup around the league. But again, TreVeyon Henderson did not run the ball well. I mean, they averaged 3 yards per carry. I mean, Emmanuel Buka, Jeremiah Smith only had 35 yards receiving. Emmanuel Buka, 51. Cardinal Tate, 58. I mean, this is one of the better receiving. Like, you're looking at least 2 first-round picks in this room, and Cardinal Tate, who looks really good as well in his own right. I mean, what are his stats? As a sophomore, he had 584 yards and 4 touchdowns, and he looks good. And he's 6'3", 191, more of a slot type of guy. He's the top 3-round draft pick right now. You're looking at this, and you have TreVeyon Henderson, who's one, and Quinton Jenkins, who his draft stock has fallen. But I mean, Jenkins. I mean, this was one of the better. This is some people say the best team in the league. I wouldn't say that just because of the issues at quarterback, and I'm not sold on that front 7. Jack Sawyer and all those guys. I think those are homegrown guys who are kind of like the Jake Fromms of the groups. But like when it comes time for pen and paper, are they going to be able to do it? And I see Jack Sawyer and some of these other guys high on draft boards. I'm not high on them. JT Tuimoloau and Tyler Williams. Not high on them. I'm huge on Caleb Downs. That brother's insane. But outside of that, I mean, Denzel Burke's cool. It's just, and they had 2 picks. Jack Sawyer and Caleb Downs got a pick. But outside of that, man, I mean, they did not play well. And this falls on Ryan Day. He's now lost 4 straight. And they don't look, I mean, you're like a 16-point, favorite. And you lose at home. It'd be different as away, right? But you're in Ohio State, and you lose to a pedestrian Michigan team, who then makes Michigan look so much better. I mean, the only highlight of Michigan's season has been that they flipped Bryce Underwood. Outside of that, there's nothing else. I mean, they don't look... I mean, there was barely a pulse with this team. They're down a few guys. They don't have a receiving core to save their life. And, I mean, they just handed... They threw the ball 16 times. And Davis Warren was 9 of 16. He played a terrible game. Terrible game. Khalil Mullins only averaged 3.6 yards per carry. But it was just a defensive battle. And you can't get... In Michigan, you cannot get in a defensive battle with them because, I mean, there's Kenneth Grant and Mason Graham, 2 of the better D tackles in the country. Mason Graham's going top 10. Kenneth Grant is a back half of the first round type of talent. You let them control the game. You let them just bully you around. Joshua Stewart played well. I mean, they dog walked you. And you lose the game. You're not out of your conference championship. Penn State's now in. So now you can't get that first round bye. I mean, it was just bad. And then they planted the flag on the thing. And I get it. Fights like this should not happen in college football, right? I stand on both sides of the fence. I love the flag planting. All right? I own you at this point. 4 straight wins, and I beat you at home when we were supposed to get dog walked, and we upset you. I'm planting my flag in your thing. Right, cool. But then after you just got upset, kind of got your butt beat, your offense could not do anything, and then you fight them, and Jack Sawyer's like, nah, man. Where was this during the game? Where was this? I know Jack Sawyer played well, but where are you firing up your team, firing up your offense to turn this around? It was ridiculous. It was ridiculous. I mean, it was a joke. Ohio State looked pitiful. They looked like sore losers. I mean, terrible sore losers. And Ryan Day's just standing there flabbergasted. And he still keeps his job. I didn't like it at all. I just thought it was, it's a joke. And then Michigan then fires their OC. And it's like, dude, this is... I mean, Ohio State falling to where they fell. They're now 9th. They're going to go play in UT, which, honestly, UT with their home game to start off, UT's got a bad road, okay? So they're going to go play Ohio State at UT, and then they're going to go play Oregon. I think Oregon dog walks Tennessee. But Tennessee at home could beat Ohio State. Honestly, Nico played a good game against Vanderbilt, but that's his best performance yet. And it was mid, too. I spoke about the stuff that came out last week about Nico. I mean, outside of that, Georgia just got Indiana, 7-10. Notre Dame versus Alabama. I mean, those teams beat each other up. Penn State plays ASU in Penn State. And whoever wins that plays Boise State. And honestly, if ASU could upset Penn State, that's a good game between them and Boise State. SMU's got to play Clemson. And let's just talk about this. Well, first, we're going to go look at the rest of the... we already talked Georgia Tech. Ole Miss being upset about, not being in. It's kind of ridiculous. You lost. I mean, let me look up Ole Miss's schedule. You lose to a Florida team that you had no business losing to. I think you lost to Vanderbilt. Yeah, you lose 24-17 to Florida. You lose to LSU 29-26. And then who else? You lost to Kentucky. The loss to Florida and Kentucky killed your season. I don't want to hear anything from Ole Miss saying that they deserve to be in. They played like crap. Their best player is Princey. I can't say his last name. Umalu as the defensive end. That brother's a stud. And they got 3 really good receivers. But Jackson Dart is overrated. I mean, Lane Kiffin being mad, brother. You had your best win is over Georgia at home. At home. Then you have your win over South Carolina, but that's early in the season when South Carolina barely got their crap together at the time. Right? You lose. It's a dogfight against Mississippi State. Rivalry weekend, we don't really look at that, right? As a Georgia fan, can't really dog on them. You lose to Florida. And, I mean, that was the end of Florida. It's like Florida was terrorizing people. Florida said they've saved Billy Napier's job. But, I mean, it's just ridiculous. Is it all? I mean, it's just a joke. I mean, it's so bad. Looking at the CFP. I mean, they're 15. Miami losing to Syracuse was so huge because it gets Clemson in and it knocks Miami out of the conference championship game. And then, not only that, but Miami's out now. Like, Miami, they're out. They need they need SMU to get blown out to make it. But at this point, we're not even looking at, I mean, let's look at it here, right? There is really no hope. I mean, they're out. Alabama being at 11 is ridiculous. But if ASU loses, BYU or whoever plays them in their championship game is in. I mean, what are we looking at here for Week 15? Who is playing ASU? Iowa State. So they're in. Right? They're in now. What do? Miami fell 6 spots, and that's kind of ridiculous to me because then you promote an Alabama team. I have an issue with Alabama being in. I say Alabama over South Carolina. I say South Carolina over Alabama because South Carolina barely lost. This was before South Carolina went nuts. Right? Before South Carolina went nuts. They dog walk Oklahoma. They beat the Braves off as Texas A&M. Yes, they get blown out by Ole Miss, but then they have a dogfight. They start the season off. They beat Old Dominion barely, but then they beat the crap out of Kentucky. They did everything they could to beat LSU. I said this before, and you can look at this. South Carolina tried losing this game. They did not want to win it, right? You lose by 3, and you had every reason possible to win it, and I think this win would have got them in, okay? Then you beat Akron. Then you get blown out by Ole Miss, but then you lose by 2 to Alabama. So against LSU and Alabama, you have a combined loss of 5 points, right? Great. Then you beat the brakes off Oklahoma. You beat up a Texas A&M team that was hot. You beat out a Vanderbilt team that was hot. You beat up a Missouri team who everybody's high on, 34-30. Beat up Wofford. And then you beat Clemson in a dogfight, 17-14 in Clemson, I think. Or it was, I don't know where this was at. Where was this at? That was in Clemson, right? And Clemson is playing for their title. How does that not put you over Alabama? Alabama's one great win is over Georgia. And you take that first quarter out of that Alabama game, they lose. Oh, and they beat the crap out of LSU. But like LSU, we don't know what to take from them. They get dog walked by Oklahoma. Oklahoma put 21 points on their head. Oklahoma has barely scored that many points. And Jackson Arnold transferred. And like Jackson Arnold, I don't know where he's going to go. Right? There's rumor that he's going to go to Georgia. Kind of hope and pray he doesn't, but we need a quarterback. But all he can do is really run the ball, struggles to throw the ball. We don't need that. We need a gunslinger. But you lose to Oklahoma in Oklahoma. Oklahoma doesn't even have many receivers. I mean, I think I think everyone's talking about Miami. I think if you're going to have a 3-loss team, put South Carolina in there. Lenora Sellers has played out of his mind. I mean, out of his mind. And tell me otherwise. I'm trying to find his stats. I mean, they're already looking at him for next year's draft class as a top 5 pick, right? He throws for 2,274 yards, right? 65 completion percentage, 17 touchdowns and 7 picks. But then he runs for 655, 7 touchdowns, and he was hurt to start the season. Like, there was a few games where it was a struggle to keep him on the field. And then you got Raheem Sanders, who's one of the better running backs in the country. You got Nick Haber, who is the fastest receiver. I mean, this team was catching fire. This defense Kyle Kennard, I am high on coming into this draft. He finished with 11.5 sacks. Stewart, 6.5 sacks. TJ Sanders in the middle, great. Not Junior, good as a DB or as a linebacker. I mean, this team is full of dogs. They're a scrappy team. Shane Beamer, I love him to death, and I was worried he was going to get canned start of the season because they were winning and they were losing, and they were losing bad. Like, not big wins, but like coaching errors, just simple mistakes. I thought his head was going to be on the chopping block, right? But he turns them around, and they go nuts. This team over Alabama deserves it. I like Lenore Sellers over Milrow. I like Sanders over the running back committee over there. The only thing Alabama has offensively is Ryan Williams. And honestly, Kyle Kennard over LT Overton. I mean, the only thing Bama has is that middle linebacker duo. But outside of that, like, I think it's ridiculous that we didn't put South Carolina in. And it's because it's little old South Carolina, and they haven't really been relevant since Jadeveon Clowney. So we're not going to put them in there. Which is stupid. Which is dumb. I kind of frustrated that you dropped Miami 9 spots because they lose by a few points to South Carolina, or Syracuse. And I know they don't have a ranked win. But they have a top 3 Heisman candidate in Cam Ward, who's probably going to go number 1 overall. And he plays well. I mean, they play exciting football. They're going to put points up. Alabama is either going to be a dogfight or they're going to get blown out. Like, there's no in between. At least with Miami, you knew what was going to happen. I think Alabama and South Carolina are in the same boat. Either it's going to be dogfight or they're going to get blown out. Miami's, it's going to be dogfight. And it's going to be an exciting game. And you keep them out. And again, I say out of the 3, it goes South Carolina, Miami, Alabama. I do not like Alabama being in. What have they done? Ryan Williams has cooled off second half of the year. They don't have a number or big name running back. They don't have a great pass rusher, a great secondary guy. Malachi Moore is a child. Acts like a kid. Jalen Milrow's inconsistent. I mean, you take out his one good quarter against Georgia, his season had, and the LSU game, we leave that in there, he's had a mid-year at best. At best. It's a joke, and it's not fair. It's not fair. And back to Ohio State, because everyone's talking about this, if Ryan Day deserved to be fired. I don't even care if they win a game, if they win a playoff game. Ohio State should be fired. I mean, Ryan Day should be fired. I mean, what has he done for you? He won one playoff game, or you have that little run with Justin Fields and then C.J. Stroud. But again, there's just been so many issues. I mean, they recruit so well, yet they can't win big games. I mean, you lose to Oregon, you lose to Michigan, and now you're out of it. Yes, you beat the brakes off Indiana, but let's be honest, Indiana with Kurt Cignetti, next year it's going to be even better because he's recruiting and he's gonna have guys transfer in, and he likes having older guys transfer in, kind of like Deion. The recruiting classes aren't going to be as great, but he's going to bring in some dogs. But like Ryan Day can recruit, like hands down recruit. Jeremiah Smith, Emmanuel Buka. I think Buka maybe came in with Urban Meyer. But, the defensive guys, he brings in Caleb Downs, Will Howard. But again, it's like it just did not get enough done. And he can't get anything done. Like, it is bad. It is terrible. They can't win big games. He can't. He can't. And it's sad, and it's just a joke. It's just a joke. Emmanuel Buka, for me, is the number 1 receiver. He's gonna get drafted in the first round. And I mean, this class, he's gonna go and be a weapon somewhere. I see Brian Thomas level impact. Maybe Keon Colby, where he gets brought in a little bit slower, but he still gives you 600-700 yards his rookie year. And then his second year, you're like, oh, he's gonna pop off. But I mean, it's awful. Awful. Now, that's it for our weekend. The rankings, people are hating on it. Boise State shouldn't be in. Boise State, yes, they should. They have the Heisman Trophy candidate in it. Texas, I don't know if they should be 2. SMU being a 3 seed is crazy to me. I love it. Notre Dame, I'm still not sold on them. Jeremiah Love is the truth, but outside of that, you stop the run, they can't beat you. And I mean, I'm loading the box. 8 guys in there making you beat me over top. Let's see if Riley Leonard can do it. Indiana, if they play Georgia in Georgia, I think it's over with, and then we get a rematch. But if Georgia wins, they go to 2. If they lose, I think they ultimately drop to the 8 or 9 spot. And a 3-loss Georgia team, you've lost to Texas, you've lost to Alabama, and you lost to Ole Miss. And you've already beat Texas in Texas. Barely lose to Bama. I mean, you were winning that. You came back and almost won that game. And Ole Miss, you got kind of thumped in the rain in Ole Miss. So, we discard that game. But the other 2 losses would be great losses. They belong in. Alabama, again, I've been off my rant. I don't think it's that good. I don't like it. I mean, I just do not like it. It's just a joke. I don't think it's fair to the players of Miami and South Carolina because we're putting Alabama in because it's Alabama. Listen, if Nick Saban was still there, fine. But DeBoer, no. I get it. He led Washington in it last year. I do not care. I do not care. He has not done that well this year. You lose to Vanderbilt and you get thumped by Oklahoma. And then you choke away the Tennessee game that you were winning for 3 quarters. You still couldn't do it. But next up, and we're going to talk about the 49ers starting off, right? And first off, Christian McCaffrey comes back and then he's down with a PCL injury. And I mean, this team can't stay healthy, and it's a shame, right? Because they could really use him. He played, it says 4 games played. I didn't even know he came back for that long. I mean, I didn't even know he played. He had 50 carries. He played against Buffalo. He had a great game against Seattle. He played all of November. 1 game he played, they won. His best game was against the Seahawks, and they lost. And then he's having a great game against Buffalo, and they lose. And he's probably out for the year. And then you lose Jordan Mason, who was great. And I think they shafted Jordan Mason. I'm going to be honest with you here. He got placed on IR, I think. It says on the injury report he's not. Yeah, he's headed to IR. And they got Turner Guerrero. He's played well, but again, you're down to your 3rd string running back. I don't even think it's 3rd string. I think it's 4th string. Because they had Mitchell. I don't know if he's still with the team. We're about to look, take a gander. But you're down Nick Bosa. Yeah, Patrick Taylor Jr. is your backup running back now behind Guerrero. Who else is down here? I mean, looking at this IR is crazy. And the Lions have it worse, but you're down Dre Greenlaw, Tallulah Halafunga, Drake Jackson, Javon Hargrave, Christian McCaffrey, Mitch Wishnowsky, Jordan Mason, John Felicio, Brandon Ayuk. Yeah, Elijah Mitchell. You're down to your Ambry Thomas, Kevin Gibbons, Curtis Robinson. You're down to your 4th string running back. I mean, Guerrero wasn't even no one even expected him to make it through camp, and he did, and now he's being a major factor of this team. I think they shafted Jordan Mason, and I think they rushed McCaffrey in so bad. They're like, oh, we're losing, we need McCaffrey back. You have a guy that was top 10 in rushing yards, who was doing it great. I mean, he's averaging 5.2 yards a carry. You split the carries. I think, honestly, you do that out of respect for Mason. You get him to 1,000 yards, or close to it. Yeah, he finishes the year with 789. And you put in a McCaffrey guy who had not played all year, and you start giving him double-digit carries a game, which was a mistake. They mishandled that situation so bad. I mean, it was just bad. It's poor management. And then he goes back down, and then Mason goes down in that game, and then he's out for the year with an ankle injury. I mean, there's no point having him come back for 1 game. So you have Guerrero, and I mean, this team is, struggling. I mean, they are struggling. They're fighting for air. I mean, this Buffalo game was big. I think it was more the 49ers just lost all air. 35-10. I mean, and we're going to talk about Brock Purdy in a second, right? But Mason gets 13 carries, 78 yards, 6 yards a carry. And people hate on him. Guerrero, 4 carries, 19 yards, and he added a touchdown. Guerrero's done great. In his first year in the league, 42 carries, 246 yards, 2 touchdowns. But again, this is a team that, up there with the Lions, have been decimated with injuries. And I want to look at the Lions depth chart because I mean, the IR is crazy. I'm gonna have to, it's not popping it up. I mean, the Lions have it bad, dude. I mean, you can't make up what the Lions have gone through. And then to be this good, I mean, their IR, and it grows at every game. I mean, Malcolm Rodriguez joined it. Malik Wingo, Makai Wingo joined it. I mean, they haven't got anybody off of it. They tried to get Ifitu Amenawu, and he got put back on it the game after. So now you're looking at David Long, Turner, Ezekiel Turner, and Jack Campbell as your main three linebackers. You did sign Kwan Alexander, and you signed Jamal Adams, who I think is on the practice squad. If I had it to yes, he's on the practice squad. Who's going to play linebacker, which I didn't know. And this one, a linebacker with 9.5 sacks, or a safety with 9.5 sacks, it's like stupidly crazy. But again, they're down a few guys. Josh Pascal and DJ Rader aren't playing tonight. Taylor Decker isn't playing tonight. I mean, they're down a lot of guys. I mean, it's getting ridiculous. I mean, they're on the verge of the breaking point of them not being able to support it anymore. They're filling spots up, but I mean, at the same time, you can only do so much, and it's getting rough. But I mean, the CMC injury is huge. I think the 49ers are done for. I mean, what more can they do? I mean, looking at this 49ers team, well, I mean, what more do you have left in you? Nick Bosa is out. Trent Williams is out. Aaron Banks is out. So your whole left side of the line's hurt, right? The receiving core is Juwan Jennings, Deebo Samuel, Ricky Pearsall. Because you lost also another rookie, I think. Or they cut him. Yeah, I think they cut him. Jacob Cowling is your other receiver. But, I mean, Dominic Pooney, your third-round pick, is now playing. Isaac Guerrero, your first-round pick. So they've got 3 rookies starting. Their first rounder, third rounder, fourth rounder. And then on the defense, they got another fourth rounder. They had 3 fourth rounders. And all 3 of them, 1, 2, 3. They have 3. And 3 of the 4 are starting now. Your second rounder, Renardo Green, is playing. DeMore Lenore is out himself. I mean, this team has been pushed to the point of injuries where they can't rebound. Fred Warner's been playing. I thought this was crazy to find out. Greg Warner has been playing with a fractured ankle since like week 2 or week 5. Excuse me? And he's game to game because of that. And it's just, I mean, their depth, it's rough. I mean, Halafunga, all-pro safety, has yet to come back. Dre Greenlaw, all-pro linebacker, yet to come back. Javon Hargrave went down with a torn pec. Jordan Mason, down. Brandon Ayuk, who just got extended, down. Avery Thomas, who's going to sit in the nickel or the corner spot, down. They're where the Lions got pushed, and they got pushed out. I mean, they just got a lot of injuries. But the Brock Purdy thing, there talks about moving on from Brock Purdy, and it's not from the organization, it's from the fans, and I think that is so stupid. I mean, let's pull up his stats here. Because he's at his worst, he's a game manager, right? But at his best, he's a game changer. And like I look back to this, the Lions game last year, he flipped the game. It wasn't him making some good passes. He used his legs and flipped the game, right? His passing touchdowns are down, but I mean, you think about it, this team has been banged up, and he's got 8 picks, right? Cool. Last year he had 31 touchdowns. The year before, 13-4. He threw for 4,200 yards last year. This year, this team, he doesn't have Christian McCaffrey, He lost IU. Debo's been down for a few games. Juwan Jennings has been down for a few games. Ricky Pearsall's missed time on the IR. Can you blame the brother for having a bad year? The left side of the offensive line's been banged up. George Kittle's missed time. Right? Now you're down to your third string running back. Fourth string, because Mitchell was your second stringer. And then he went down. So Mason, you originally went to your third stringer, went down. He came up in your starter, did well. Now you're down to your fourth stringer. I mean, what do you want from him? He's still completing his passes at a 65.7% clip. He's running the ball a lot better. And, I mean, his legs last year and the playoffs flipped it. I mean, he did such a great job. That game against the Lions, he himself willed that team to a victory offensively because they were struggling. And he flipped it, and he went forward. And everyone was like, oh, man, this, that, and the third. So far through 2 years, he's played in 6 playoff games. And he has 6 touchdowns, 1 interception, 63% completion percentage for 1,300 yards. QB rating he's got a rating of 96.2. That is phenomenal. Again, he's been top 10 in quarterback stats since he was thrust into the starting quarterback role. Yet he deserves his flowers. And he fits Shanahan so much. It's because the injuries took him out and their depth got exposed. And I'm so tired of it. Everyone hates him because he was a 7th round quarterback. And he's got this moxie about him. He's not even a hateable guy. But people hate on him. If he was drafted in the first round, it's completely different. It's just because he's a 7th rounder and there's a lot of questions about him. Right? And it's all the way he's perceived. It's the way it's done. If Caleb Williams was drafted in the 7th round, he'd be looked at the same way as Brock Purdy was. Right? I mean, what is that 2022 draft class? I mean, I really want to look at this as the Trayvon Walker draft class. So the quarterbacks he was better than. I don't even think better than Kenny Pickett. He's still starting. Better than Mac Jones. I think this is the Mac Jones draft class. No, it's not. But he's better than all quarterbacks. I mean, there was no quarterbacks one quarterback taken in the first round. He's better than all of them. He's probably a top player in that class. He's second ranked player behind that class. He's in front of Aiden Hutchinson, Chris Olave, James Cook, Pickens, Bland, Thibodeau, London, Cross, Lindenbaum, Kenneth Walker, Garrett Wilson, Kyle Hamilton, Devin Lloyd, Coral Ossis, Trayvon Walker, Rashad White, Sawyer, Pickett, Quay Walker, Jermaine Johnson, Jalen Petire, Terrell Bernard, Tyler Algier, Breeze Hall, Desmond Ritter, Christian Harris, Kyron Williams, Romeo Dobbs, Jake Ferguson, Trey McBride, Roger McGrady, Kirby Joseph, Brian Robinson Jr., Damian Pierce, Jordan Davis, Juwan Brisker, Alec Pierce, Cam Taylor-Britt, Leo Chenal, Derek Stingley, Evan Neal, Jahan Dotson. I mean, he is the second best. The only one is Sauce Gardner, and that's because he had a fantastic first 2 years. Sauce Gardner has had a bad year this year. So you're going to look at me and tell me that he is not worthy of it? I mean, arguably, he could have gone in the first round, and I loved him in college. I forgot he declared, though, but Iowa State was relevant with him there. Then they had, until they found Brody Brink, who's their quarterback now, they were irrelevant. They were terrible. And now you're like, let's get rid of him. Why? Why? Because every bad game, bad game. I think his total in his career, he's had 4 really bad games, and 2 of them have been against the Ravens. I think it's 5 now, but 2 of them were against the Ravens. Holy cow. I mean, he's played 36 games. In 5 games, they've been bad. Why? You can build your... And he's probably the type of guy that will take a pay cut so you can build around him. So why not extend him? I think it's so dumb. And if the 49ers let him walk, it's the end of their dynasty. I mean, it's the end of their run. They're not a dynasty because they haven't won the Super Bowl, but it's the end of their run. Because you did not address the position. You hit the jackpot, right? And you had 2 years to win it, and you lose it to the Chiefs. and the Eagles, and then this year injury 16. They're going to happen at some point, right? But, I mean, like, he is 24, and he looks great. I mean, it's a bit of a travesty. Yes, he's a bit of a game manager, but at his best, he's a game changer. Last year, he completed 69.4% of his passes, and it was elite. It was pinpoint. Look, you can put any quarterback behind there. Jimmy Garoppolo hindered that team. Nick Mullins, liability. C.J. Beathard was bad. They did not put up these kind of stats. Those guys are game managers. They're backups. Brock Purdy, it drives me insane hearing this game manager, he can't do it. Yes, he can. Yes, Brock Purdy can. Why not? Tell me why. Because he was drafted in the 7th round? Okay. They're undrafted. Beanie Bishop for the Steelers, he's a corner, different thing, was starting. They're undrafted guys who go in the Hall of Fame all the time. Not all the time, but sometimes. You hit the nail on the head. He was the last pick of the draft, and you hit the nail on the head. Matter of fact, he's Joe Burrow-esque. He can move around the pocket, whatever. But here's the thing. We love Joe Burrow because he made it to the Super Bowl. He's helped lead this team. Doesn't have the type of weapons. And he was great in college. He won a Heisman. It's all about the popularity. And it's kind of like the Bama thing. And it's just so dumb. It's so dumb, right? Awful. Now, Bengals. I'm running long. Bengals and Steelers played, right? That gets me fired up. I saw something about this, and I was like, we're going to have to talk about it. Right? And first off, we'll go through Aziz Shaheed, whatever his name is. That was a terrible hit. And I know some people say, oh, he late slid or whatever. Roll over him. If he didn't lead with the forearm, it's different. But him leading with the forearm, that's intent. That's intent. If you don't lead with the forearm, that's different. But he hit him like that, and it's over, right? Suspended 3 games. Jaden Daniels had a game. I mean, I think he's back. I know he didn't throw for a lot of yards. Will Levis outthrew him, but like 3 touchdowns? Yeah, 3 touchdowns, and he ran for another one. And I mean, that team looks good. And they're going to have a good draft pick. And this defense, they're going to get Jonathan Allen back at some point. And when they do, that's going to be an issue. Tennessee sucked as usual. But I mean, Jaden Daniels did well. And I'm so tired of this Bo Nix, Jaden Daniels thing. Bo Nix threw 2 picks. And you're like, man, that performance was so good. He still threw 2 picks. Jaden Daniels, their turnover ratio is the same. Jaden Daniels has scored more touchdowns. And this is a team that was supposed to be terrible. Both teams are supposed to be terrible. But this is a team that's completely different. He's like game-winning drives. He's kept the team in it. I just think it's stupid. But Brock Bowers, I probably right now is a rookie of the year for me because he's breaking stats on a terrible Vegas team. Right? But LA beat the Saints. Jets threw against the Seahawks. Indiana barely beats New England. Arizona loses to Minnesota. Falcons, Kirk Cousins throws 4 picks. I mean, it was bad picks. And Ladd McConkey, he's playing great. And I'm moving him up in my rookie of the year stuff. Baltimore lost to Philly. And Philly, their offensive line and defensive line are fantastic. And Cooper DeJean stuffed Derrick Henry. The issue was last year, their secondary, right? It's weird because them and the Lions took the same approach in the draft for the first 2 rounds, which is weird because they had 2 different issues. The secondary of the Eagles was old and was awful, right? It was terrible. The secondary for the Lions was scrappy and ball hockey, right? I get it. You draft somebody in the 2nd round. But they address the same issue, and look at it now. The Lions can't get pressure without Aiden Hutchinson. Shocker, called it. Zadarius Smith isn't the answer either. And so they've got still a hole up front that they're going to have to address. And if I keep seeing mock drafts of them not taking... I don't care if it's Jack Sawyer. You've got to draft somebody in that 1st round. And then you go 2nd round in the attack or whatever. But they both address it. Quinion Mitchell was a hit. And I want to see what this draft... how this draft went. I mean, when did the Lions pick? So they picked 2 picks before Detroit, so Quinn Mitchell went before. But you still could have taken Cooper DeJean at 24. Terry Arnold's been in penalty trouble. So why don't you... Nate Wiggins? I mean, Kool-Aid McKinstry? Kamori Lassiter? I think Cooper DeJean should have been it. Cooper DeJean has played a kind of a slot corner safety role. Hybrid. Looks great. I mean, fits it so well. And, I mean... He didn't start the year for them, but he didn't start it the year as a starter, but he's a punt returner. He's your nickelback. Quinn Mitchell, I mean, and I'll put the stat up here, and this I got to put down. He's held every receiver under 50 yards that he's played. And it's lockdown. It's lockdown. That's why he's so high up on my Rookie of the Year thing. Because he has shut down a side of the offense. And then Cooper DeJean, maybe he's not the great... He's a very solid cover corner. He's not the greatest. So you have C.J. Gardner-Johnson. You still have Darius Slay, who's out. So you're seeing more of Cooper DeJean, Keely Ringo, and Eli Ricks. Eli Ricks, I did not like that he was starting last year. I think that's part of their issue. Sidney Brown's playing. Reed Blankenship, who looks great. I mean, they fixed their issue. But guess what Detroit didn't do? They didn't fix the pass rushing issue. So you had to address it in trading. Give it up assets. You could have addressed it in the first round. And I know this was a weak pass rusher class. You could have gotten Zahir Newton, T'Vondre Sweat, Braden Fisk, maybe Edgerrin Cooper. You can put him as the end. We're not going to talk about the Falcons D-tackle pick. That was terrible. Darius Robinson. I mean, and the Cowboys. We're going to talk about them in a second. But, I mean, you miss on so much. The Falcons' third-round pick has not played a single snap. It's not even... Oh, my Lord. But, I mean, they didn't address it, and that was a severe need. They needed a pass rush. And I was banging on the table, pass rush. And now Aiden Hutchinson's down. Trade for Darius Smith, which would have looked good if you had addressed that edge rusher spot. Coming into the year, maybe go out and get a Dante Fowler. Spend some money. You don't. Right? Which is just a joke. Rook has been out. And Brandon Trice. Oh, amazing. But, sorry, I got sidetracked. But, you don't do it. And now, I mean, this team, Terrion Arnold doesn't look good. And it's Rakeshaw's hurt. Like, just address your needs. And they locked down a team in Baltimore who is struggling lately. But I still think they're great. I still think Baltimore is really good. I think, Baltimore, they're just struggling. They're going to get better. They suspended Dante Johnson, which was crazy. But, I mean, Baltimore's going to get there. I think they're going to address the defensive secondary in the first round, but it is awful. But Bengals Steelers, right? Bengals, man, Zach Taylor's got to go. You got to redo the secondary. I saw something where you take another tackle in the first round if you're the Bengals. I saw a mock draft, and I thought that's the stupidest thing in the world. You go edge rusher. I'm going to come out with a mock draft. You go Michael Williams or Jalen Walker, somebody. Or defensive tackle, or great linebacker, or DB. You need a game changer. Game changer upside. And you need a good coach who is going to flip it. Ben Johnson, mentor, the DC for the Lions. Cliff Kingsbury, which I don't think he leaves, but I mean, And the Hard Knocks came out, and they're like, don't go after, watch George Pickens. George Pickens, 3 catches, 74 yards. Then Pat Freiermuth had himself a game. I mean, Russell Wilson, 414, that's a detriment on that defense, right? And Joe Burrow at the 309, but he fumbled the ball like twice. Yeah, lost 2 fumbles. He got sacked 4 times. Russell Wilson only got sacked twice. And they came after him. They've got to redo their pass rush. Sam Hubbard, not the guy. You've got to put someone across of Trey Hendrickson to go after him, right? And Joseph Osai, they missed after first round pick. They had Miles Murphy, who was supposed to fix the issue, but he hasn't even played that well this year. After showing a promising campaign last year, he hasn't shown much, and he was a first round pick. So, like, you look at this, what are you supposed to do? Joe Burrow's getting whacked up front. Like, their front 7 is getting bullied. And the difference is, the 49ers, the Steelers, they had a bad front 7, but they got that situation fixed. And they're now protecting the quarterback. They have very similar situations offensively. One group has gotten better together, the other group has not. And you're seeing the what can do. The Steelers control the line of scrimmage, and the Bengals get pushed around. And it's awful. It's awful. And they don't have a number 1 running back. Chase Brown's better as number 2. They trade for Khalil Herbert, and he hasn't done. They're not running him enough. He had 1 carry for 14 yards. Why not give him the ball again? Jamar Chase is going nuts. T. Higgins is going to walk in free agency. Jermaine Burton. They have not developed guys in Cincinnati and under Zach Taylor, and he's got to go. You got to get somebody that will develop your players and who can get a running defense. That's been an issue. The defense and the offensive line have been a consistent issue under him, and they have not addressed it. You've got to get rid of him. You've got to get rid of him. I don't know what kind of coach you bring in there, like the Bears' offensive-minded head coach. 100%. Thomas Brown, maybe. I think the Saints have found their head coach. Riz looks great. Galvanize that team. They're competing week in and week out. So who do you bring in? I don't know. I don't know where they go in the draft because I don't know that it's the pass rushing group is more upside than it is anything. Kind of like last year's. They're gonna have a high pick. I mean, they're gonna pick high, swing high. I mean, if James Pierce Jr. falls to you, take him. You need game wreckers up front. It's something they do not have. I mean, it's just that simple. But Russell Wilson, I mean, the Steelers look great. 93, their offense is explosive now, which is an issue. George Pickens looks like a number 1 receiver, and he's getting thrown to the ball like a number 1 receiver. He's top 10 in receiving yards. He's only got 55 receptions. Pat Freiermuth looks good. You got Mike Williams as well as your number 2. Calvin Austin looks great as number 3. And then Van Jefferson is a backup 2. Looks fantastic. Darnell Washington's getting used. Cordell Patterson getting used like getting a gadget role. The running backs, Jalen Warren and Najee Harris, fantastic. Fantastic. Najee Harris is 11th in the league in rushing yards. 5th in carries. All right? The defense, Nate Herbig harassing guys. Preston Smith doing a great job. TJ Watt, Cameron Hayward playing well. DeMonte Casey, Peyton Wilson took one for a touchdown. That was this week or last week. Nick Herbig gets a sack, forced fumble. Benny Bishop looks great. TJ Watt, game record, 2 sacks. And how many sacks does he have on the year? 9.5. That's 7th in the league, right? But I don't know why he's going to the Bengals. I mean, this defense, Joey Porter Jr., when he gets it under control, great. Then you have Deshaun Elliott, who I was huge at for Texas and coming out. Great safety, great pickup. I mean, he's an enforcer, green runner. You have him and Micah Fitzpatrick back there, which is just scary, right? And also, oh, by the way, you got Micah Fitzpatrick. This team is probably the best it's been in years. All right, maybe they can upgrade a receiver. Understandable. But still, I mean, this is fantastic. Russell Wilson has changed them. And you're looking at teams that flip the script. Joe Burrow and Jamar Chase, you've got it. But you've got to fix your offensive line, your whole entire defense, and your running back situation. Chase Brown's solid, right? Solid. at 70 yards on 12 carries, but he's not a future running back. I mean, he's just not that guy. He's better as a number 2, scat back. And I think you're seeing a Bengals team who, I mean, I think Zach Taylor is starting to lose them. And so, like, everyone's calling for Kevin Stefanski, and I'm talking about this because we're about to talk about the Browns and Jameis Winston. He has not lost that locker room, and you cannot blame him for the team sucking. But he is Jameis Winston, right? I mean, they are cap held because of him. And that team is competitive week in and week out. What's the issue with Zach Taylor? You've been healthy. I mean, Trey Hendrickson is top 5 in sacks. Joe Burrow's leading quarterbacks. Jamar Chase is the best receiver in the league. What are you doing? You get one of the better number 2s in the league, who's the number 1 on a good team. Like, this is on the head coach and the coaching staff and the GM. And I mean, Zach Taylor's got to go. Kevin Stefanski, he's doing best with what he can with nothing. With mid-quarterback play. You put him with the freaking Bengals, and the Bengals are 9-3 themselves. But I digress. Because it just doesn't... I mean, the Bengals have got to, in this draft and free agency, address offensive line and defense. And if I'm them, I'm franchise tagging T. Higgins and trading him to where he wants to go. You just send him. And you get draft picks, maybe a first-round pick in return, hopefully in this year's draft, and then you address the defense and offensive line. I don't know. It's just where the pick lands if you go offensive line or you go defense. If you go high enough, Will Johnson or Mason Graham. I think I saw Mason Graham go to them. If they got Mason Graham, you're controlling the front. Because then your front 7's fixed. Your secondary, we can figure that, but you can be suffocating. But I digress, right? Then Thursday Night Football, gunslinging match. Jameis Winston looks great. And can we commend the Broncos? They're in cap hell. They're 8-5. I mean, they just cut Russell Wilson. Bo Nix looks good. This is with piss poor running back committee. I mean, they don't have a guy over 500 yards rushing, I don't think. I mean, every game is a different running back. There's 4, really. Archer Gasme, Tyler Batty, who got hurt, Jaleel McLaughlin, and Javonte Williams. I mean, you just don't know who's going to pop off. I think Javonte Williams got hurt at one point. Yeah. And he's not looked the same since coming back from injury. I mean, you've got to... Marvin Mims showed out. Cortland Sutton showed out. And then you have Troy Franklin. Devon Villa, I mean, they need another receiver, but doing what they can with what they have is great. Marvin Mims is probably a good number 2 receiver. Cortland Sutton's a mid number 1. I mean, so you can go out and you can draft, again, Emmanuel Buka, Luther Burden, someone of that, again, and I'm not super in with this draft class. I'm going to release it next week. But you can go and address it. This defense is suffocating. 2 pick sixes, 3 picks. Nick Petito is a great player. I mean, John Franklin Myers is a monster. Jonathan Cooper's playing well. Pat Surtain's the top 5 cornerback in the league. I mean, they play great football. And then the Browns, Jerry Jeudy looks like a number 1. Elijah Moore looks great. Nick Chubb starting to round back into form. They have Kadarius Toney on the team. Jameis Winston about 3 for 500 yards. Since he's joined in, I think he has like 200 yards, 200 passing attempts. Let's look at his passing attempts, right? $230 passing attempts. He's number 1 in the league by 20 attempts since he got thrust into that spot. Because that's all they can do. Jerome Ford hasn't looked good. You know, Nick Chubb's coming back. Jameis Winston is a great backup. I mean, he's already top 30 in passing yards, top 25 in passing touchdowns. He's got 7 picks. It's the Jameis Winston experience. Keeps this team exciting, keeps them going. I mean, they've got a lot to build for. You cut Deshaun Watson, you're going to have a top pick, right? They're 3-9. You can go Cam Moore, Shadur, Carson Beck, maybe Milroe, Dylan Gabriel if you want to. I think he's this year's Bo Nix. and then you move forward from there. Or you hold on for another year and you go tank for Lenore Sellers. I know everyone says Archie Manning, but they said he's getting 4-year degree. He's a redshirt sophomore, freshman. He's got 2 more years left. He'll declare as a redshirt junior after 4 years. So, I mean, you've got time to wait. But, I mean, they're close. I mean, this defense is good. You've got Grant Delpit. You've got Denzel Ward. You've got Myles Garrett, Devin Bush, Dalvin Tomlinson, Greg Newsome. I mean, this is a good team. And you still got Nick Chubb, who's now getting older. He's got some injuries. I mean, how old is Nick Chubb? He's 28. But, I mean, he's still coming back. Kevin Stefanski, I believe, deserves to keep his job just because of this. Right? And I think Jameis Winston has kept this team exciting. Jerry Jeudy is happy because Jerry Judy's going to have like 100 yards or 1,000 yards receiving. I mean, let's look at these stats. I think in the last games, I mean, Jameis Winston is averaging about 15 yards more a game, passing yards. He's already doubled Deshaun Watson's passing touchdown total. Right? Deshaun Watson didn't even add anything on the ground. Jerry Judy's got 880 receiving yards. Elijah Moore now has 450, and he's getting used. Cedric Tillman, when healthy, is getting used. Right? So you've got 3 young guys. You need a quarterback. You need to address your offensive line. But, I mean, you're a quarterback away, realistically, if you look at this team, from being contenders. I mean, let's be honest here. Maybe another pass rusher. And a linebacker, because you probably lost Jeremiah Owusu or Kimura to a neck injury for his career. But, I mean, still, it's a really good team. You've got Denzel Ward, who's one of the better corners in the league. And it's just, again, Zach Taylor and Kevin Stefanski together. Who are you taking? Kevin Stefanski. He's done more with less. I mean, they've got about the same record with a worse team. He's got a worse team. Right? Now, ending. Yeah, we're running out of an hour mark. Zion needs to go. I mean, I said this before. The Hawks are moving up. They eliminated. They're now in the knockout round. Looks good. They're 12-11 now. The Pistons starting to struggle again. The Sixers 3-7 in the last 10. They've won. Wizards had no wins in November, and it kind of sucked. The East is starting to round out. The Knicks are so confusing. They're not deep, and they're shallower than last year, and I think that's a big issue for them. It's humongous. The Western Conference, the Warriors are falling. They're 4-6. They're finding ways to lose. They can't figure out the shooting guard spot, and I don't know why they don't start Buddy Hield at the 2, so he can be knocking down shots, but they don't. The Grizzlies look fantastic. The Rockets and the Thunder, 2 really young teams who are scary. And they keep saying that the Rockets need to go out and get another superstar. No, Jalen Green's supposed to be your superstar. Right? You got a deep team. They can go 12 guys deep, literally. Maybe 13. Alfred Sengun's your other superstar. You need Jabari Smith to kind of step up. Fred VanVleet's a great facilitator, great leader. Tari Eason's good. Jabari Smith, at some point, has got to average 15 to 20 points a game, and you have 3 20-point-per-game scorers. And it'd be 20, 22, and 25. 25 being Jalen Green, 22 being Jabari, 20 being Alfred Sengun. And then you get 13, 10, whatever, fill in the gaps. Lakers, they got blown out by 41 last night. Bad loss. They're not deep either, and they're just lacking size and grit. Nuggets, they're starting to come back around. They're 5-5 in their last 10. And then Aaron Gordon just came back, which is game-changing for them. He went nuts in his first start back. Clippers, scrappy. I like the Clippers. The Spurs, 6-4. They just got Jeremy Scotch one back, and Stephon Castle looks great. I mean, I like the Spurs. I know there's a lot of glazing on the Spurs right now. But if you look at this team, I mean, going forward in the future, this is good. They look. I mean, I believe they found their head coach of the future. And Mitchell Johnson looks great. But I mean, they're a first round pick, a big acquisition on the as a forward or a wing away. Stephon Castle, what is he averaging? 11.5 points. Percentages, not the greatest, but they're going up. Chris Paul has done a fantastic job. 10 points, 8.2 assists, and a steal and a half a game. Wemby is going nuts, and he's doing it efficiently. Julian Champagnie looks great. Devin Vassell, since coming back from injury, is great off the bench. Scotch one. I mean, their bench is kind of like the Hawks. They can give you 9 guys, because Trey Jones or somebody, and have 3 of the bench guys go off for double-digit points, just like the Hawks. The Hawks and them are 2 different situations, and we're about to talk about Dyson Daniels here in a second. But, I mean, this is a deep team. You've got Keldon Johnson, Jeremy Scotch-One, and Devin Vassell, who are all starters on a normal team, coming off the bench and giving you 10, 15, maybe 20 points a game off the bench. And then your starters, Julian Champagnie, averaging 11.5. Stephon Castle looks great. Harrison Barnes looks solid. You have Zach Collins, Chris Paul. And this is a good team, young. They need to kind of figure things out. You're at some point going to have to figure out your small forward shooting guard spot. Where does Devin Vassell fall in that? And then does Julian your guy that you have in it? If so, draft somebody. I mean, but they're going to have great draft pick. I mean, they're going to have a good draft pick because I think they have some. They have some other teams' draft picks where it looks dangerous. So, 2025, they had the Bulls top 10 protected pick. Okay, so they're not going to get that. The Charlotte Hornets top 14 pick from DeJounte Murray, they're not going to get it. Then they've got their own pick and the Hawks pick, which are probably going to be mid to late first round picks. I mean, that's not bad. I mean, those picks will turn into first next year. And then they've got a Hawks, they got their owns, and then they got 2 more, and then a load of seconds, and then they got another Hawks and their own. I like it. I like what they've done. Right. But it's a great squad. And they've got a lot of potential. Do I think they're going to do anything really this year? No. I think they're going to be a play-in team, but outside that, because, let's be honest, the Lakers are probably going to fall out. Right, the Spurs are going to be 12. The Timberwolves are going to jump up. They're playing back. I still don't know the Timberwolves. Right, Rob Dillingham's got to get playing time as a backup guard. But then you got the Kings at some point. I mean, on paper the Kings look good because you got De'Aaron Fox, Domantas Sabonis, and DeMar DeRozan. Oh, and then by the way, you were hoping to be your 3rd star, but now could be your 4th fiddle. Keegan Murray, Malik Monk, and Keon Ellis off your bench. Trey Lyles, who I'm huge on. And they're 10 and 12. 3 and 7 in their last 10. And all 3 guys are popping off. Keegan Murray is overrated. I mean, I will say this. He's not developed the way they wanted to. I think he's the same guy he was his rookie year. And it's a shame. And then the Pelicans, they're healthy now, but they're 1-9. And Zion, I mean, I don't know what you're going to do with Zion. He's got to get traded because it's a team killer because he's always hurt and it's killing the team vibe and everything. I mean, it's just bad, man. It's bad. But and this is more of an NFL. Not much has happened in the NBA side. I mean, I can look through my photos. Let me check something real quick. It's still going. Okay. I thought my phone may have died. My phone's low on battery. But I don't think I'm going to have my photos on here. The Dodgers have over $100 billion in deferrals. The Texans have gotten a great rookie class, and we'll cover that later. Yeah. I mean, that's about it. The transfer portal's going nuts already, and it's so stupid. But yeah, I think that's it for today's episode. Championship weekend in the NFL and for college ball, it's going to be very interesting. Going to be very, very interesting. Marcus Freeman's linked to the Bears head coaching spot. I don't really like that. I think Thomas Brown deserves it. But yeah, that's all for today's episode. I'll see y'all next time. This episode should be out Friday afternoon because I'm off tomorrow. I picked up a shift tonight, so I will not be editing it, and I've got homework tomorrow too. But I will be editing it at some point. Either I don't know. But yeah, that's it for today's episode. Thank you for watching.